Thomas, a very warm welcome to this campaign of Goodera on World Day of Social Justice. And we have been following Kamboo Project's work and your work, and we were really interested in getting in touch with you for this particular campaign, and wanted to know from someone and like a person and the entire team that has been working on ground dealing with these kind of things, social justice issues that you're facing. So my first and the most critical, and I would say the most basic question to start with would be, why are we talking about social justice? What exactly is the concept of social justice basically, and why is it the need of the hour?
So first of all, good morning, Pratham. Good morning because I'm here in Switzerland, and good afternoon to you. Why are we talking about social justice? Because this isn't just an issue for non-profit organizations. I mean, I don't know, I wish you were here in Switzerland. We have debates about this every day in the newspapers, in the media, in the cafe, in the coffee shop. We're discussing, equality of rights, equality of wealth, access to resources for everyone, education, water, and equality of opportunities. So if I talk specifically about what drives me in this respect, I think the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, they have been very, very, it's not just a theoretical concept, it's something that people deal with every day, and social justice plays an enormous role there. And if you think about, in terms of our organization, if you look at what would be markers for social justice, the world's getting more global, so we have to be more mobile, and that means socially mobile. I don't know whether you know about things like The Great Gatsby. It's a novel where somebody is born poor and then ends up being rich. He makes that through his fortune through heritage to legacy. But in terms of changing social classes, for example, social mobility, very important for us. We want the children and the communities we serve to be able to be socially transferable and socially making sure they can deal with a lot of different people in a lot of different cultures, and that they can move up or climb up, as you would say, the social ladder. Secondly, here in Europe, again, it's amazing, right? Safety nets, employment conditions, gender equality, and in the workplace. All of this falls under the category of social justice. And again, maybe I get the chance to talk about what we do for our employees at Kamboo Project, in terms of providing safety nets for their work should something happen to them. And then, of course, so we have social mobility, we have safety nets, and then, of course, the big philosophical, theoretical thing is economic justice. What is economic justice? Because social justice is directly connected to economic justice. And I always find this a bit arrogant when the West and the richer countries provide the framework for economic justice when they haven't achieved it themselves. I should say, I think it's fair to say it's debatable whether it has been achieved anywhere. But so if you look at that, this is why it matters. It's a daily buzz around this. And then as to Kamboo Project, for us it's Sustainable Development Goals number 4 and 6, which is access to education and access to water. And you can directly link that to social justice, because if you don't have that, again, if you look at these social markers, social mobility, safety net, economic justice, very difficult for an individual and for a community and for a nation and for a society to achieve that. So that's why in the bigger and smaller picture, the issue of social justice is something that we at Kamboo Project, I wouldn't say breathe, but this is the tissue that we're working with on a daily basis.
Wow, I think superbly put, Thomas, because like what I understood from whatever you said is the concept of social justice isn't any standalone issue. it's a combination of multiple things that are affecting the life of the society, of the people living in a society, and like interaction, the social interaction, every single thing, every single aspect. So I can say that it's a combination of, let's say, multiple issues that we're facing right now. So in developing and underdeveloped nations, it can be the lower literacy rates, the hunger, the poverty, and these all issues ultimately lead to economic justice, like you said. And then again, the combination of all such issues and challenges, they form entirely the social justice issue. So am I right here, or would you want me to correct?
Yeah, I'm actually, I think you're absolutely right. And what makes it so complex is that it works when we deal with it at every level, at the individual level, in small groups, in institutions, in families, in countries, between countries. So this tissue can be interwoven in many ways, and it would be wonderful. I hope it. Utopia isn't the wrong word. If we could make this tissue really tight, but it's very complex matter and very difficult to achieve. And we start with the individual, and then with small groups, the team. Right? We try to live it every day, and that's how we approach this. But you're absolutely right in what you say.
I think the concept itself has intrigued me more to know about how exactly Kamboo project works. Like, how do you interact with your beneficiaries, the people that you serve, and like how does the entire setup works? Like, I would definitely love to understand that. Yeah.
So we have a team of 5 people on the ground in Cambodia. It's the only country we operate in. And the only one we're very proud to work there, and within that in only 2 districts and 2 provinces. So very focused geographically because of the limited man and women power, but that's deliberate. We want it to be that focused. And then we have a board in Switzerland where one of our Cambodian leaders is part of. So we integrate the Cambodian operating team into the decision-making process. Is very important to us. We don't want to have this Switzerland-Cambodia like separation. We want to have osmosis, diffusion between the two. So our country manager in Cambodia is also making the strategic decision for the entire thing in the Swiss board. That's very important to us. And then what we focus on is, as I previously mentioned, we focus on SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals number 4 and 6. Which means access to basic education. So we have a portfolio of 52 primary schools, which we serve. We do not build schools, but we look out for schools that cannot fund themselves, who do not have competence to do repair work, where students are coming from very remote areas and cannot travel to school. They don't have a bicycle, where the families are so poor that they can't afford the $6 for the uniform that the children have to wear in schools. So that's sort of the picture. And then the big focus within the schools, next to construction, fixing roofs, providing them with bicycles, education material, training teachers, is hygiene and sanitation. So we just go there, we check, we try to show them how to provide for clean water so that they do it themselves. And we are very proud of this work, and we see the results. I mean, we've been dealing with 38,000 students and a couple hundred teachers, and we can say that thousands of students are now have access to basic education, do not work at home with their families. They attend class. The illiteracy rates are going down. We measure that. And the attendance in school is going up, and we measure that, and the infections are going up there. We could talk about the parameters, what we call indicators, for a long time. But over the last 8 years, I mean, like literally, we live this small step policy. Every day, 3 students, every other week, a teacher. And then the weeks add up, and suddenly you have 38,000. It's wonderful. Just small stepping stones. And the coming back to the big topic of the call, social justice. So we think the beneficiaries we serve by direct contact. We have a team of 5 Cambodians. They work in the field. They visit our schools once or twice a month. So we have very close to the beneficiaries. And even in the pandemic, when we couldn't do hygiene workshops in the schools, we went home. Very laborious process for our employees, but we literally then went to the communities. And wonderful side effect was that the mothers, fathers, uncles, and aunts also learned something about how to wash hands and to prepare for hygienic conditions. So it went from school training to family, community training, but we never stopped, because what we do is not very capital intensive or doesn't require a lot of material. It's more of our NGO is centered around services. So we could actually deliver those services even during the pandemic. We did a lot of online meetings with teachers, training courses. So we've been gunning through the last 2 years pretty much as if nothing had happened, which we're of course very blessed and very lucky with. And then the final thing about what Kamboo project is all about is we are very it's a Swiss organization. It was founded in Switzerland 2014, and we will make very sure that we have Swiss standards for employment for our employees in Cambodia. So I do not know what this means to them, but they have a health insurance, they have a pension fund, they have rights, we have a childcare policy, we have an absence leave policy. They have duties, but they also have rights, and we write those in the contracts. They have performance objectives, tough. They have an incentive in the salary, but they also have, and I come back to one of the markers for social justice, is a safety net, right? So if our project manager, who is on his motorbike all day long, falls and injures himself, he's being provided for, his family is being provided for, he's covered. And because I think we cannot go out there and preach water and drink wine. So we have to live this. We have to live this on a daily basis with others. You have to start with yourself. So this is very, very important. This is very important for us. So I'm a teacher, and I've been literally looking at my contract, and then we were mapping this onto our workers or our members and friends and colleagues in Cambodia. So this is sort of what the DNA of Kamboo project is about. If you can describe that in 2 or 3 minutes, that would be it.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love the approach that your organization has towards social justice, that it is particularly working on the root causes of this holistic issue that we're talking about. To mention a few, like you said, the education and helping out the schools and students to raise them. And I love the philosophy behind the Kamboo project that it has, and like you said, it's the DNA of Kamboo project if stated in 2 or 3 minutes. So I really like that. And I would like to understand here, one small part of social justice is providing social justice is poverty eradication as well. So I would like to understand from you, how does social justice connect with poverty eradication, and how does it exactly serve that purpose of poverty, eradicating the poverty in a particular geography?
If I took an onion, there are several layers in this onion, and the first one is very obvious. If you wanna apply for a job, you need to be able to write a letter or an email. To be able to write, I mean, for you maybe it's very clear and banal, is you have to be you have to be able to read letters and write them. And so access to basic education is everything. And in this respect, 90% of Cambodian students attend primary school, but on the countryside this is much lower. And then many of them drop out after the primary school, so grade 5, 6. And so we want to make sure that they carry through, that they get a chance. It's so basically, if I go back to what I said at the beginning, it's equal social justice as equality of opportunities. We need to be able to put them in a position, or they need to be able to put themselves in a position to actually grab your opportunities. Well, if I said so, man, if you wanna step on the moon, well, you need to be able to construct for yourself a spaceship so you can go there. We give them the means to do that. So basically, access to schools and education, schools that open, that work, and that provide education every day. And the second thing is clean water, because health is the other big mark. You need to be healthy. It's a strange word, but to compete in this world for opportunities, because it is a competition, unfortunately, you need to be healthy. So that's how we contribute to poverty eradication. And on a very small thing, our employees often also are drawn out of very poor families. So we actually show our beneficiaries the result of what can happen if you make this work, because they meet our employees who have made this step. So they act in a way as it's an auto-catalyst in a way. They act as role models. So that's how we do this. But of course, again, we are very small. If you measure our impact on GDP of Cambodia, it's small. But if you multiply it by 500-600 of such programs, the impact is measurable, is tangible. So that is how we think we contribute. Now, in such a call, don't get me, we get things wrong. We've been doing this for 8 years. We were on a steep learning curve at the beginning. For example, one of the big mistakes is giving help to the wrong person, a beneficiary who actually is not a beneficiary, especially for foreign people who do not speak the Khmer language that well. Finding out who is actually a beneficiary and we made mistakes at the beginning. So that brings me back to the last thing. How do we contribute to poverty eradication? Research. We analyze the situations carefully before we make a decision. Who are the most in need? Are the beneficiaries are they motivated? If we go to a school, is the school government motivated to fix the problems? Do they have a buy-in? Are they really willing to make progress? Because one thing, we can collect money, we can raise funds, we can provide bicycles, but what we cannot provide is intrinsic motivation to get it done. So, and that's very hard to find out sometimes. But that we cannot order. I cannot order someone to be motivated to change his social situation. You need to show them the opportunities, and if he or she likes that and says, yes, I really want to go that path, then let's go take that path. So research, it all starts with the research process here. So I don't know, this gives you a bit of an idea how we try to contribute to poverty eradication. Well, the first thing is to find the poorest. It starts with finding the poorest, and then finding motivated poorest, which is a hard concept, but that's how it works. When you have small means like we do, we really want to have 100% hit rate, meaning the ones that we provide help for, we want them to make it.
Thank you so much. I think that's very well put and very wholesomely. I think you answered this question. Here, this reminded me of a quote that if you give a man a fish, you feed him for one time. And if you teach a man how to fish, you feed his family for the lifetime. Yeah. So your I think answer reminded me of that quote, because you said, right, that we find the people who are actually motivated and actually eager to grab all those opportunities that we have to offer. And
I can give you another analogy. my teacher always said, Thomas, what do you want to do for a living? And I said, well, I don't know. And then he said, well, whatever you do, make sure if you walk up a hill, you do it not to be seen, but to see things from the top of the hill. It's not important that you are be seen, but that you go up the hill and you have a perspective. That should be your motivation to make the effort to climb up a hill. And I think that's sort of the type of beneficiary we're looking for.
I really love this line, Thomas. I'm going to write this down, that if you walk up the hill, be there to see others and not be seen.
Exactly.
This is a completely life-changing statement that you just made. And with such discussions, I think there is a lot that I also get to learn personally on a personal level, because with every single interview, I think of one thing, at least I have to take one new thing, one unique thing from each and every interview. And I think after doing hundreds of interviews, I will get an entire box of so many learnings and new things. So thank you so much.
You know what we're doing here is it's a very traditional method of mutual education. It's the Socratic Approach. Socrates, the Greek philosopher, by talking to each other, you have this moment where you make progress. That's what we're doing, and that drives me as well. It's amazing when I have known you for 15 minutes, and completely trustworthy communication. If you think along the same values, amazing things can happen.
Yes, and see how like all the bad things were brought upon us by COVID on the entire world, but one small and very, very critical and crucial thing was that COVID brought the entire world a bit more closer to each other. Like currently we are connecting from two completely different parts of the world. I am sitting here in India, you're sitting there in Switzerland, and still we are connecting at the same level. So I think that is something positive to take away from the barbaric episode of COVID that we have recently seen. It's still there in a lot of places, but not as deadly as it has been like a few months back. So I think that is something also. Now, coming back to our discussion, coming back to our core topic. So there are a lot of times when we actually pick out the individual issues, the individual challenges, like the challenge of poverty that we're talking about, the challenge of like illiteracy. We are talking about lack of education and lack of access to the basic resources. And we most of the times do not talk about the overall purview of social justice. That concept is very, very, I would say, less discussed upon in our society and in the entire world as well. We take particular issues and we talk about them, but we don't holistically see social justice as an issue. So I would like you to, for all those people, even for me, who does not know a lot about social justice, can you put some things that you wish more people knew about social justice as an issue?
Well, I come back to how to observe it. I think people, you have a right for this. So you should just be able to observe what's happening to you. And for example, what we're doing here is also an act of social mobility, because you've been brought up in a different way. I've been brought up in a different way. You have different cultural background than I do, instead, yet we are able to talk. And yes, because we've been through the pandemic, we've been practicing this. Now it's kind of obvious, but this is not so obvious for a young child at 5, 6. If you're from Cambodia and you meet what they call a barang, a white Western male, to be able to connect and interact with people from different backgrounds, that's an observable where you can see, oh, I can actually do this. I can talk to a foreigner. The foreigner talks to me. He accepts me or takes me seriously socially. And to put yourself into a position like that, you can celebrate a lot of small successes every day. Apologies. Second thing is, urbanization puts a lot of pressure on social justice, and unfortunately, people want to live in cities. I'm sort of at my age, cannot understand why that is, but the jobs are there and the education's there. I love it on the country. I live in the countryside. I so enjoy it, but I was an urban snake, sorry, or an urban rabbit. Call it this way. No, please strike the word snake. An urban rabbit. I loved it. You know, in London, in the underground, and being just part of all the buzz. But let's say a young kid from the countryside who was poor moves into a city because she got a job there, and then you move into a house, right? And one of the great social markers for social justice is mixed housing, right? I mean, so are you able to live with people around you from different cultures? Can you? And what does live mean? Live means, can you interact with them? Can you cook with them? And these kind of things are literally very important. Having lived in London, that's something I've had to learn, because the Swiss society here and there is a bit homogeneous. We don't have a lot of mixed housing here. Sorry for whoever is hearing that, but I think young kids will have to learn to do that. That when you move somewhere, that you will encounter different people from different backgrounds, and social justice means you have the means. And something a hotly debated topic, but I have to say maybe I put myself politically or I expose myself politically, but wherever I see socially developed societies, you have equality of gender and race. Full stop. That's a clear observable. So as when I talk to a young kid, say, and she says, I want to do this, I want to move there, and I say, make sure that you have a framework where the opportunities are there for everyone, because the chances that they are there for you, if they're there for everyone, are higher than if they're not, when it's restricted. So to sum it up, it's, you know, you should be able to live your dreams. So go and find yourself a setup where you can live your dreams. That's what it should all about. Brings me back to this utopia of a completely social just community. But that's what I would do. But if I sum it up, access to health, education, to be able to live in mixed communities with mixed housing, and equality of gender, race, and maybe the other thing is child protection. This is also something. If we do something, if something goes wrong at the age of 3 to 10, 3 to 12, in terms of abuse, or they have to work too early, too hard, there's strains on their body too early. These things are very important. This restricts the chances of an individual to blossom when they get older, if something goes wrong at a very early age. So that's sort of my take on the whole thing. I don't know whether you've learned something from this, but this is how I look at I look at the tissue and the framework of this.
I think I would say that this is a great way to see this issue, a point of view that most of us miss out on. I think you have shown me that, and I hope that other people can also have this point of view to look at the opportunities in life that they have, and the inclusiveness of their closed ones, the people they're living with, and the entire society. But
if you put it together, there are two levels. Unfortunately, there's an institutional level. So of course, politics. I mean, I'm sorry, but the political framework is important. You know, if the institutional framework isn't right, very tough for the individual to achieve your dreams. But then it can still fail, because then the other thing is, intrinsically you have to be motivated, and it has to be part of the DNA of the community as well.